Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Driving Project Management Maturity with Project Online, Resource Management and Reporting. The webinar is hosted by Baz Kindra. This webinar will be recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel shortly, so you'll be able to re-watch it. Please look out for the polls throughout the webinar, which will gather some useful information that will help inform and answer questions. And don't forget that you can ask any questions throughout the webinar. We will obviously endeavour to answer all the questions at the end, but if we have too many, we will send out an email after the webinar with the answers to these questions. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to Baz.
Excellent, thank you very much, Nathaniel, and good afternoon everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join this event. So again, my name's Baz Kindra, and I'll be leading today's session. And this is the second of a two-part series looking at Microsoft Project Online, which is available within Microsoft Office 365. Today's focus will be on driving project management maturity with an emphasis on how you can improve resource management and reporting. The first webinar took place on May the 19th and showcased how you could improve consistency, increase visibility, and facilitate collaboration. If you missed it, don't worry, it's now available on the APM YouTube channel. We'll keep today's session pretty interactive. We have two polls coming up a bit later, and we will allow for around 10 minutes of Q&A time at the very end. Now, due to time constraints, the session today will be providing a high-level overview of the solution rather than a deep dive. We can also provide you with 30 or 90-day trial environments. Details on how to sign up for those trial environments are actually displayed on the screen right now, so there is a URL there. wellington.co.uk/APM-free-trial. So if you do want to sign up for a trial, then you can make a note of that URL, and it will be repeated again a bit later, but it's very, very easy to sign up. So the agenda for today's session. I'll start off by introducing Wellington. I'll talk to you a bit about what we do as an organization. I'll then talk about the two pain points that we're going to be focusing on today, after which we'll do a brief, in fact we're going to do two polls, and following that we will talk about the Forrester Total Economic Impact Report, which was published quite recently. The focus is on the benefits and the return on investment offered by Microsoft Office 365 PPM, and I'll give you a bit of background to the evolution of Microsoft Project as well. The bulk of today's session will be taken up by a live demonstration, which will be showcasing resource management again and reporting, but I will also give you a very high-level overview into Project Online. And towards the end, I'll again reiterate some of the trial options that we have available, as well as implementation options. And last but not least, we will be doing a Q&A session at the end. Now, if you have got any questions, then you can use the GoToMeeting Q&A panel, the toolbar, to submit your questions as and when they crop up, and again we'll have a bit of time at the end to focus on those questions. So Wellington, we are very much a specialist project management company, and we offer a range of services spanning consulting, training and recruitment. The focus for today is obviously on consulting, whereby we typically go into organizations, we help them to mature their project management processes. We help them to set up PMOs. We can also run assessments. And once the project management framework's in place, we then go about deploying either Microsoft SharePoint, or for organizations that are a bit more mature, we then look at deploying Microsoft Project Online. And that again is the focus of today. But I will quickly state that we do also offer training services through corporate customized training. And we also have courses that are APM accredited. And we also offer a wide variety of recruitment services as well. Our clients are very wide-ranging, so you'll note here that we don't focus on a particular vertical. So these organizations are incredibly diverse. The only thing that they all have in common is that the bulk of them are using Microsoft PPM to manage their projects. And Project Online is also an incredibly scalable solution. So the smallest implementation that I've ever been involved in was around 5 users. Going up to the likes of other organizations that are using thousands of users. So it's incredibly scalable, not only in terms of user base, but also in terms of feature sets as well. Let's talk about some of the PM pains that exist that we're looking to tackle today. So first and foremost is reporting. I've worked with a number of organizations that experience a great deal of pain when it comes to churning out reports. The problem is they're often very manual reports. They take time to do, and it means that often reporting is not available on demand at the push of a button. And being manual, we also tend to find the reporting can be quite subjective, with a project manager's favorite color being green when it comes to red, amber, green reporting. And not just that shade of green, any shade of green, it's just green. The project is green from a cost perspective, from a scope perspective, from a scheduling perspective. Another big pain point is resource management. This is possibly a larger pain point. We work with countless organizations that have produced some incredibly beautiful spreadsheets, but spreadsheets that are very labor intensive. They take a lot of effort to keep up to date, and they can't really help us answer questions like, what happens if we take on another 5 projects next month? Do we have enough resources of this type available or that type available to do the work? Questions like that, they become very difficult to answer, and it's often likened to a herding cats. That brings us on to our very first poll. So Nathaniel, if you want to run this, the question is, which, if any, software tools are typically used to manage project resources within your organization or your department? So how do you distribute work assignments? How do you view things like capacity versus demand? So if you'd like to open up that poll.
Right. So I think most people have had a chance to reply now. 60% of people, so the highest number, have come in saying they use Excel spreadsheet-based resource solutions. The next highest number is at 16%, quite a drop down, saying they use an EPM or PPM solution. Other than that, numbers are quite small, with I think the most interesting being 10% saying they don't use software at all.
Very interesting. Okay. So that really does coincide with our findings in the real world. The bulk of organizations we come across, that we work with, they are actively using spreadsheets. So that really ties in well with that particular finding. Okay. We're going to go straight on to poll number 2. We might as well make these back to back. So poll number 2. Which statement represents your organization or department's approach the best? So reports and dashboards are: 1, available on demand in real time in a centralized system. Well, number 2, they're manually produced regularly by a centralized function. Number 3, they're manually produced on a regular basis by a project manager. Number 4, they're non-standardized reports. They're produced regularly by PMs, so PMs have their own templates. Or non-standardized reports are manually produced on an ad hoc basis by project managers or other end users. So I think that poll should now be open.
Right, I think most people have had a chance to reply to that. The largest number at 43% are manually produced on a regular basis by project managers, and after that manually produced by a centralized function at 23%. From then on, the numbers again drop down to being quite small, with non-standardized reporting manually produced in an ad hoc manner by PMs at 12%, and 11% non-standard reports are produced regularly by PMs, and finally at 9% available on demand in real time, a centralized system at just 9%.
Thank you very much. Again, very interesting results, and in line with what we tend to find in the real world when we engage with organizations. So number 3, manually produced on a regular basis by project managers, sitting at 40%. That's producing these reports manually is a huge effort, and what we tend to find is that project managers on occasion, in fact regularly, spend more time producing reports than actually having time available to actually analyze the data. Okay, thank you everyone for participating in the polls. We're going to move ahead with the presentation, and we're going to have a look at the Forrester Total Economic Impact Report, and this is going to be in brief. It's something that I did cover in the original webinar. And by the way, this report is also downloadable. So if you go to that URL that I shared right at the beginning to register for a free trial, on the same page is also a link for you to download this particular report. So the background to this is that Microsoft commissioned Forrester to assess the return on investment and other benefits offered by Project Online. So I won't go into the detail on how the report was compiled, but these are the findings. So what were the top priorities for organizations introducing a PPM solution in the first place? For many of them, they just wanted to improve their operational efficiency in managing projects. But relevant to what we're doing today is gaining visibility to project performance, and that's reporting. And at number 3 was improving resource management, which is sitting there at 11%. And why organizations actually selected Project Online? Well, the biggest reason was because they wanted to gain visibility into project performance through better reporting. A large percentage of organizations also deployed it because they already had Office 365, and Project Online is easily accessible as an app in the app drawer within Office 365. So it becomes a no-brainer. It's one of the best of breed solutions, and it's available within a platform that you're already using. And there at number 4, in fact, joint number 3, is improving resource management capability. So a large percentage of organizations deploying the solution to help improve those particular pains. And some facts and figures for you that I'm not going to read through, but I will display them on the screen. And again, the full report does go into a great amount of detail, and it's very interesting reading. So let me provide an overview of Microsoft PPM now. So as a solution, it's been around for a very long time. So the original desktop scheduling tool was launched back in 1987, and that was really used by individual project managers to manage their own individual projects. There was no sharing of information, there was no collaboration. So it was in 2000 actually that Microsoft launched what later on became known as Project Server or Project Online, that was introduced by Microsoft to facilitate collaboration, allow all the benefits we talked about earlier, such as centralized reporting and resource management, enabling collaboration, amongst other benefits. So we are currently on Project Server 2016. Project Online, which has been available since 2013 in the cloud, doesn't really have a version number associated with it. It's software as a service. You're always on the very latest version. So as a solution, it offers a lot of capabilities. So whether you're looking for a solution that will help you with your top-down portfolio management, so what we're really talking about there is completing things like portfolio prioritization, doing very high-level capacity planning, all the way to helping you with your bottom-up day-to-day project management activities. So, centralizing and making more consistent your scheduling, automating your reporting, centralizing your resource management. These are the aspects that we're going to be looking at today, but certainly there is a lot of functionality that's offered. Most organizations, what they would do when they're looking to implement the solution is really to define what their biggest pains are and what the quick wins are that they're looking to achieve in a very short amount of time. And most organizations would look at doing what we would call a phased implementation to roll out Project Online. When we're looking at the components that make up Microsoft PPM, you've got Project for Office 365, and that is the client application. And that is the application that most full-time project managers would use to pull together their work breakdown structures. There are also some very nice resource management capabilities within there as well, features like your team planner. On a day-to-day basis, however, most users would probably interact with Project Web App, which is the web-based interface into Project Online. And one point that I'll make is it doesn't matter if you're opening up a project in Project for Office 365 or whether you're opening it up in Project Online, you're accessing the same data. There is only one version of the truth. And talking of PWA, it's a interface that really caters for a wide variety of users. So whether you're a project manager or a senior executive, a team member, you would all go to the same location, which is PWA. And we can tailor what people are able to do when they're in that environment, so we can control read and write access very, very easily. And I am going to be going into the demonstration shortly, but let me again reiterate that if you would like to sign up for a 30 or a 90-day trial, or if you would like to download the Forrester report, then the URL to access all of that information is presented at the bottom of that slide. And I'll leave that there for 5 seconds. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So Project Online offers a range of benefits. Many benefits there for senior management, for project managers, team members, resource managers, and for IT departments generally. The benefits that we're focusing on today are reporting and improved resource management. I'm not going to go into detail on this slide, but that in a nutshell is an overview of the benefits you can realize with Microsoft Project Online. So this is the last slide before I move on to the demonstration. The time now is around 1:45. We're going to be doing a demo for about half an hour before moving into Q&A, but okay. Before I do go into the demonstration, I just want to set the scene and talk you through a typical life cycle that a project would follow in Project Online. And of course there are many ways in which we can set up Project Online. It could be set up to use in a very light fashion or a very complex fashion. The demonstration that I'm going to run through now is assuming that you're using a wide range of the capabilities that are available, but again we can adopt lighter approaches as well. So within the system you can map your project lifecycle into Project Online. You can set up these templates called enterprise project types. So right at the very beginning, when you're looking to create a project request would be created using one of these enterprise project types. That would kick off a workflow. It would present the user with electronic forms called project detail pages so that they can complete them at various points of a project's life cycle. It would also give the end user a schedule template for that type of project, and something called a project site would also be provisioned for those users. And a project site is where you would maintain things like your RAID logs, your documentation as well. Now, imagining that you are, or assuming, sorry, that you are going to be using portfolio prioritization, we would expect users to go through the system and build up the business case for the project, and as part of that they would build up a work breakdown structure and they would load it with cost and with resource assignments as well. Once a project contains sufficient information, that's where you move into the selection phase, and that's where you would use the portfolio analysis features to determine which projects have the highest strategic alignment, which projects make the best use of the funds available and the resources, and those projects would then be approved or rejected as the case might be. The projects that are approved are then progressed on to the next phase, and a project manager would then be appointed. In the planning phase, that's where the project manager would really finalize the project schedule, and again remember that it was based upon a template, and they would also finalize any resource allocations. They would then baseline the project, and then they would publish the project to Project Online. And it's when you actually publish the project on the system that it effectively goes live. And it's at that point that team members that have been assigned work on the project are notified of any assigned tasks. When it comes to managing the project on a day-to-day basis, project managers can monitor everything centrally, and the project site can be used to maintain things like the RAID logs and to promote collaboration generally. Line managers or team leads or resource managers can review resource needs and work allocation using the resource center, and we'll be having a look at that a bit later. Senior management can go in and access audience-specific dashboards whenever they like, and that's really the full end-to-end life cycle. So looking at the demonstration now, I'm going to start off by giving you a general overview of Project Online first of all. So I'll introduce the PWA homepage. I'll show you one of the key views within the system, which is the Project Center, which is also a very, very good real-time reporting view. And I'll show you Project Site as well, just to show you how some of the information is collected. Then we'll have a focus on resource management. I'll show you the resource center. I'll show you some of the aspects linked into that. And then I'll go into Project for Office 365, and I'll show you some of the team planner capabilities, as well as the capabilities around assigning resources against your tasks. And last but not least, we will have a look at reporting. So I'll show you some of the reporting capability that's offered by Power BI, which is a free application that's available within Office 365. I'll show you a recently launched application that's available within Project Online called the Portfolio Dashboard. I'll show you some SSRS reports as well, that's SQL Server reports. And last but not least, I'm also going to show you some of the reporting capabilities that you get as part of Project for Office 365. So what you see on the screen right now is the home page to Project Online, referred to as a Project Web App. And on the home page, you've got a variety of tiles that get you started with PWA. So if you're looking to start a new project, you're guided through the process. If you're new to Project Online and you want to have a look at some tutorials, that's also available there. And generally speaking, these tiles are configurable. Some of the tiles that will be of interest are these ones down here that enable you to track your work. So on here, you can go and access the Project Center, which is where you get an overall view of a project portfolio, and that's a view that's in real time. And we'll have a look at that in the next few minutes. You can also see things like approvals in there. You can see the number of new tasks assigned to you, issues assigned to you, risks, and so on. And again, the look and feel of this homepage can be tailored, so it can be changed to match your corporate branding, and it is very, very easy to do that. On the left-hand side, we've got a quick launch menu. So this is a static menu that's visible no matter where you are, and it helps you to navigate around. So from there, I'd like to actually go into the Project Center. So the Project Center is where you get an overall view of your entire project portfolio. So at the moment, I'm looking at a summary view, and there are other views available as well, which I'll go into shortly. But what you're seeing here is a list of all the projects. So there's a range of projects in there. And these projects have got various icons being displayed next to them. So icons will show you that there's a schedule associated, there are issues on the project, risks on the project, there's associated documentation. And generally speaking, these columns that you're seeing displayed at the moment, they are bespoke, so whatever information you want to display, you can choose to do so by creating these global views that we see at the top. So that was just a summary view. Let's go and have a look at some projects in a separate view, and this particular view is actually showing you various KPIs being reported against the projects as well. And these KPIs, again, they're very much down to you. Whatever KPIs you want to report against, you can, and these KPIs can be set manually, so that the PM is effectively going in and saying that something is green or amber or red, or you can let the system objectively look at the progress on the project, look at things like spend and the amount of work completed, and it can provide you with its own very objective views on how things are progressing. So this is a real-time report, effectively, and there's no limit to how many views you can create. You can create as many as you want, and once you've set your global views at the top, you can also then start doing things like grouping by, for example, where the project's sitting in its life cycle. So you've got a range of views available there. What I'm going to do now very quickly is actually just jump into some of the nuts and bolts that have built this project up. So what you're seeing there is the work breakdown structure for this particular project. Okay, so that is all within the browser. You can either view this in the client application or again in the browser. From here, what I'm actually going to do is jump over to the project site, and I do really want to show you a project site because much of the information we will see reported later comes from the project site. So the project site, this is quite a basic template that I'm using today, but we can tailor these. We can have additional logs being set up as well. So here, for example, all we see are issues and risks and deliverables, but you might also put into the actions and decisions logs or change logs. So it really is quite flexible. I'm not going to run through all the benefits and the features of a project site right now because, again, that was demonstrated on the original webinar, which is now available on the APM YouTube channel. But what I'm going to show you is risks and issues. So we've got a risk that's already been set up. And if I go into edit this item, you can see how it's been populated. And this is the last item that I'm going to show you just before I move back to my demo environment. So there's the risk log. Very, very straightforward. Okay. Let me go back now to the project environment. And what I'm going to start looking at now is the resource center. And what you're going to see now is a list of all the resources that we have available within the organization. And here you can actually group your resources however you want. So at the moment, I'm not grouping in a particular way. I'm used to viewing all resources. I might choose to see my cost resources, material resources, work resources. So purely because of time constraints, I don't really have the time to explain what these different types of resources are. So I'm not going to do that, but I do have various links to articles that I've written previously that I will include in the Q&A responses that are sent out by the APM. So you can do a bit more background reading on that. What I'm seeing here is a collection of some of my work resources. And work resources can be named individuals. They can also be what we would call generic resources, which is what you're going to see loading up here at the bottom. So generic resources is effectively a job title placeholder that you might use when you're first creating your project as a substitute for a named individual. Now what I've done to save a bit of time is I've actually selected a few resources already, and what I'm going to do is go and interrogate exactly what work they've been assigned. And remember, this is all central, so we're not relying on Excel or anything. This is all looking at the data from the schedule itself. So this is live data that we're looking at right now. So what I'm seeing here is a list of all the resources, and on this Gantt chart view I can actually see when people have got work in their diaries. If I want to see this in greater detail, I can switch to the time-phased data view, which is exactly what I'm looking at right now. So here for Bonnie Kearney, I can see that Bonnie has been assigned to this particular project and assigned to these specific tasks below that. If you bear with me, I am going to switch actually to a view that will probably show me, there we go. So we can see here for the Partner Help Desk project, Bonnie has been assigned to this Incorporate Feedback on Software Specifications task, and there are 8 hours due on the May the 20th, and also on the 23rd of May as well. And if any actual hours have been reported, I would see the actual hours being reported right there. So aside from this, you can also go into the capacity planning views as well. So this is where we get quite visual, and we see some out-of-the-box reports. So this particular report is actually a capacity and engagements heat map. So where you see green, we've got plenty of availability. Where we've got blue, we've got availability as well, and there are some tolerances and thresholds we can set there. But it's where things are being identified as being red, but we've actually got over-allocation taking place. So this is a visual representation of people's availability. Aside from this, you've also got views like resource utilization, which is incredibly useful. So here I've got a key of all the individuals that I had selected on the previous screen. I've got various parameters that I can set here along the top, so I can choose to view things in hours, days, or as FTEs, and I can also choose to view items in days, weeks, months, quarters, or years. And in this specific view that you're seeing, we've got this capacity line along the top. So this is saying that collectively, these individuals combined can do 104 hours of work per day. But the only people doing any work here are actually Glenn John and Robert Lyons doing some work as well. But all this white space that you see in between the capacity line and the bars at the bottom is showing you free time where other individuals are maybe sitting around and they could be assigned other work. That information is also available in table format at the bottom, and that's not the only view that's available. We've also got resource utilization by project, so the bar chart is going to look pretty much the same, but instead of seeing a listing of individuals, we're now seeing which projects are actually using those resources. Now, something you can also do when you're assigning resources against a project is state that a booking is a proposed booking, but it's not yet confirmed or committed. And if, as a general rule, you say that any projects that are in the pipeline but not yet approved can only use proposed bookings, if you apply that or take it away, what you're effectively doing then is running a what-if scenario. What if all the projects that are in the pipeline go ahead? Are we going to exceed capacity? Last but not least, remaining availability. So this is a very nice report whereby a bar that's going up is showing you that a person has availability, and a bar that's going down is showing you that a person is over-allocated. And what we can see there on that little pop-up is that Molly and Robert are over-allocated. There's a lot of detail there, so I can actually choose to zoom in and see greater detail. So I've zoomed in a tiny bit, and let's just zoom in again. And there we go, we're seeing this information in greater clarity now. And again, all this information is available in table format right at the very bottom. So that was capacity planning that we just had a very quick look at. What I'm going to do now is actually switch over to Project Professional, the client application. And within there, I've actually got a project that I've already set up. And in here, I've already got various resources assigned to the project. And within this view, you can either add... a lot of this is down to your corporate policy. If you as an organization are stating that PMs are not allowed to assign resources off their own back, but any resource requests have to go to their team leads or to a centralized project manager, you can get the project managers to add what we would call engagements, which effectively kicks off a short workflow that notifies the team lead that you want to assign a particular individual to your project for a particular period of time, and that person can either commit that resource or reject it or recommend somebody else. If you as an organization are going to allow your project managers to add resources as and when they want, so if you've got more of a matrix management structure in place, that can also be facilitated. So let's go with that option. So if I want to add resources to my team, I would simply build a team from the enterprise resource pool. So having clicked on that, what I can see here is this build team window that pops up, and here you've got a listing of all the individuals that have already been assigned to the project. And in here we've got a collection of named individuals like Bonnie. We've also got some generic resources in place. We've also got in there various booking types. So again, this is where we go back to proposed or committed. You can see how much work is required from each one of these individuals. And what we have here on the left-hand side is a list of all the individuals available in the organization. Just to play out a very basic scenario, imagine that you've created a project based upon one of the enterprise project type templates that would be pre-populated with generic resource assignments. So the system is telling you that to complete one of the tasks you need a developer. So if you need to find a developer, all you do is select that generic resource, hit match, and I'm shown a list of people here that can do the role of developer. And I've just opened up this filter along the top. You can see that the position or the role for that individual contains developer. You could take this a step further and say that, okay, I need a developer, but I also need somebody with a particular skill set in Java development or .NET development. So you can add other attributes against these resources in there very, very easily. One thing that I'm not seeing at the moment is resource availability. To see resource availability, all I do is tick that box and hit apply. And now I can see people's resource availability popping up. So if I do want to replace the developer with a named individual, all I do is select an individual and hit the replace button, and now I've got this individual, Jonas, available to assign against my project. If you would like to add a bit of workflow so that people have to request resource from a centralized resource manager or a team lead, you can do that as well. So here I'm going in, asking to have Mark assigned to my project. So Mark is required to complete some UAT. And I can put in the start date. I can also put in a finish date. So let's say we need somebody for a couple of days. And here I can say that I either need somebody for 100% of their time over those 2 days, or I can specify the specific amount of work required. And here I'm going to say I like Mark, which is why I need him on this project. Obviously you can type in anything you want, but that's just a quick example. And click OK. And that effectively, when you publish the project, will fire off that request to the team lead. And in fact, I can show you where that ends up by going back to my demo environment. So here we are. And if I go into my resource requests, there we can see all of the incoming requests. So these are requests that have already been populated, by the way, which is why it says it's committed as opposed to being a draft. But it really is a very, very straightforward process. And there you can see that you can select somebody. You can either edit the engagements or accept it or reject it. So lots of options there around resource management. One final thing that I do want to show you is the team planner view. So on the system, you've also got access to this type of window. So here what you're seeing is a listing of all the resources that are currently assigned to the project. And this color red, by the way, is signifying that all these individuals are over allocated. In this calendar view, you've got tasks that people have already been assigned, and you can see clashes as well. So here we've got this task, redesign process and conduct preliminary manufacturing, that's clashing with another project. If I double click on that other project, I can see which project that is clashing with, and I can see that it's this shared GPS device for transportation. What I can also do here is actually click and drag tasks around to reallocate to somebody else, or use to move out into the future, which is what I'm going to do now. And let's just drop that there, and you can see when I did drop it, it's moved other things out. And by the way, these tasks, I can also double click into them and open up the task information window. Conscious of time, so what I'm actually going to do now is move on to reporting. So reporting is really quite powerful within the system, and you get some reports within Project Online itself, and you can also use some of the associated technologies offered by Microsoft, such as Power BI, to also run and access reports. So here I've got one of the out-of-the-box dashboards that's available within Power BI that is interrogating Project Online data. And again, Power BI is available for free within Office 365. It's just one of the apps that resides within the app drawer. There is also a pro version available. Now, before I go into this dashboard, I do want to show you this little feature here. So you can actually go and actually type questions in. So you can ask questions using natural language. So if I wanted to see projects with the largest variance, and you can see that the system is going to give me options there. Am I looking at finish variance, start variance, work variance? Let's go with finish variance. So there I can see that report being populated, and at the moment it's being displayed as a simple clustered bar chart. If I wanted to view that on a table, I can choose the table visualization. If I want to see it on a pie chart, again, I can do that. If I want to view this as a funnel, again, I can do that as well. Going back to my dashboard, I'm just going to show you that here we actually have a predefined dashboard out of the box. Let me just get rid of our toolbar again. And this features on it many different aspects of the project information that we have in the system. So we're seeing information there linking into risks and issues. We can also see a bit of a governance report there. Project's not updated in the last month or within complete work in that particular time frame. And these are not static elements. We can also choose to drill down. So if I want to click down onto our planned baseline report, I can do that very easily. And aside from this, you can also go into the system and you can generate your own reports very quickly. So going into Microsoft Project there, I've got access now to the data set. So let's just bring in the project names first of all. So let's add that filter there. We might also want to display here some of the project cost, so let's add that in as well. And again, you can access the different visualizations. Let's just go with this funnel view. And in order to save this report, all I need to do is pin that visual. So let's call this the APM demo. And we're going to save and continue. And it's asking me now, do I want to add that report to an existing dashboard or do I want to create a brand new dashboard? Let's create a brand new one. Let's again call this the APM demo dashboard and pin it onto that. So there is my new dashboard. It's a bit bare at the moment. There's only one report aspect on there, or report element, sorry. And I'm going to choose to pin that particular element onto my new dashboard. Oops, sorry, existing dashboard. So I've added that in. Here we're going to add in this element as well. And let's also add in some risks. So let's have a look at active risks in particular and pin that onto there. And if I go to my brand new dashboard, there it is. Very easy to build up and also to modify. So here what I'm actually going to do is extend out some of these elements. Now something else you can do is when you do click into these project reports, you can choose to publish these elements to the web. So you can get some code that provides you with a link to that page, and you can then choose to do whatever you want with that information. What I've done here is I've actually created another PWA instance whereby I've got a report embedded on the home page to Project Web App. So very easy to do. Going back to my primary demo environment, I do also want to show you some other reporting elements. So going back to the project environment, what I'm going to show you is the portfolio dashboard, which is available as a free app within the system. So you're just going to click on that particular link. And looking at time, we've literally got a minute to spend on this. So this will be a very, very quick overview. And within this report, you can see that it's loading up the data as I speak. And here, if you look at the sections there on the left-hand side, we can see an overview, project-specific report, task report, an overview report. And this reporting app is also interactive. So here you can see that when I roll over particular elements, it's also displaying information as appropriate. And again, I can do the same with that particular pie chart. And here at the bottom, you can see all the projects grouped by department. And this is a general overview, so I can see that this particular project along the top, the Apparel ERP upgrade project, is not going so well. I could choose to, if I want to, drill down into that particular project, and I can see lots of information. Looking at time, I'm just going to focus on one other report, which is the resource report. So here I can see the resources that are completing the most amount of work. So Robert Line is certainly very, very popular. And very similar to the capacity and engagements Heatmap report that we showed you earlier in the Resource Center, there's a very similar report here that's available within the project dashboard. Moving away from this, I do also want to show you that even the desktop application, the project application, provides you with a wealth of reports. And here we can see various dashboards that you get out of the box. So I'm looking at the project overview at the moment. You might also want to look at cost overviews as well. And these are not static reports and dashboards. If I want to get further insight into this information, and if I want to add other fields into these tables, I can do that very easily. And that is that. One other reporting element that I do want to show you is SQL Server Reporting Services. So SQL Server reports are also available, and SQL Server reports are very useful when you're running reports like project highlight reports or status reports, reports that you want to export out and share with other individuals. So all I'm doing here is selecting a project. I'm going to hit the apply button, and what you see there is a project highlight report. So key information from the project, description, project manager's update. Some of the information we saw earlier on the project site is all being displayed. And these reports you can actually choose to export out using a variety of formats. So PDF, Excel, as an image file, as a Word file. The options are yours. And just to show you other types of reports, this is a PMO project governance report. So I'm just going to select the type of projects that I'm interrogating. I'm going to choose a project status, and I'm going to select a particular year, and I'm going to hit apply. So this one's PMO project audit governance, and there I see a list of all the project names, who the PMs are. I can see whether or not the projects are baselined, start date, finish date. I also see there things like my late tasks. If I drill into my late tasks, I will see those tasks when they were due and what the current completion percentage is. So when it comes to reporting, there's a ton of reporting capability within Project Online and within Project for Office 365. And as you saw through the demonstration, there's a lot of functionality there to look at resource management. But just to reiterate, purely because of time constraints, what we've done there is effectively scratch the surface of it. There's a lot more to these components, and you can have hands-on play with these components if you want to by signing up for a trial, which I'm going to talk about now. So what are the options for you? So one of the first options is actually the fact that I can deliver for you a bespoke demo. So if you would like to get further insight into a particular area of functionality, we can do that. If you want to have a day whereby we come out and spend a day with you at your organization and look at the possibilities in accordance to your current pains and your objectives, we can do that as well by delivering a on-site discovery day. As I've already mentioned several times, you can test drive Project Online by signing up to a 30-day or a 90-day trial environment. And again, the URL to do that and also to access the Forrester report that I talked about earlier is displayed there at the bottom. One point that I will make, by the way, is the 30-day trial is really designed for organizations that just want to have a very quick look at the solution and then be hands-on. The 90-day trial environment is something that we would provide you with if you're looking to do more of a formalized proof of concept or to run a pilot. If you've decided that Project Online is the way that you want to go and you would like to implement, then we do offer a fixed price implementation package called Project Online Prime, and details of that I can provide offline. And in fact, my details are now on the screen. So if you do want to contact me to talk about implementation options, if you've got any questions at all, please ping me an email to baz.kinder@wellington.co.uk. But Nathaniel, I'm actually going to hand over to you now just to open up the Q&A. So we do have around 12 to 13 minutes of time to do questions and answers. So please don't be shy. If you've got any questions, please ask via the GoToMeeting Q&A panel.
Okay, thank you, Baz. Before I get into the questions, just to recap to everyone, the event feedback will be sent out shortly. On that feedback will be a link to the free download trial that Baz has mentioned. The presentation is going to be put on YouTube. That should be done by Friday or Monday, so for people that want to rewatch that, go on to YouTube and have a look next week. Now, if I start us off with the first question, which is it easy for projects to view each other's risks in order to learn any lessons from other relevant projects?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of this is controlled by security. So we can set a project online to allow you to work in different ways. But certainly if you want other people to be able to view your risks and issues or lessons learned, we can do that through the logs that are available, but we can also produce reports based upon the data that we have in the system. But yes, that is achievable.
Okay, thank you, Baz. And the next question is the project manager able to track changes for who is making updates on resources, on resource availability or work completed?
Again, the answer to that is yes, and there are different ways in which you can set this up. But if you wanted to track who was requesting resources or assigning resources, all of that information is available within the system. And there are actually several screens where you could get access to that data, so either in the Resource Center through Project for Office 365 or through reporting. But yes.
Okay, thank you, Baz. And the next question we have is, can the resource management element interface with another standalone resource management tool? And they gave an example of Rike, but I guess it could apply to any other standalone tool.
It's not something that Project Online is really designed to do, and I think by trying to integrate with a third-party resource management solution, I think you'd probably be introducing a lot of complexity when we get into the realms of integrating. I think you really probably need to take a step back and look at what you're currently doing with your existing solution against your future objectives, and I think you'd probably make a call on what is the better option for you. And for most organizations, having a fully unified solution is normally the way that most organizations would go. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Baz. Just time, I think, for two more questions. So we've got a question here. With regard to reporting, as you showed, you can drill down when viewing reports. How is the drill down aspects reflected when you're exporting from the report? For example, if you were exporting a report in Excel or PDF that showed a budget overspend, does the exported report show the full details that support
it would show you whatever you're seeing on screen at that time. So whatever report you've ran, so for example, I ran a project highlight report earlier. If that's the report that you've run and you're looking to export, it's going to export out that report.
Okay, thank you, Baz. A couple of other questions have come in. So one is there the functionality to manage benefits through and after a project?
Yes, absolutely. So there's nothing as such out of the box, but for many of our clients, we've either set up benefits plans or we've set up benefits logs, but we can certainly accommodate benefits realization, benefits tracking. It's just a case of understanding what benefits tracking means for your organization. But yes, we could accommodate that using either SharePoint or using Project Online.
Okay, thank you for that, Baz. The next question we have is, does resource management interface with MS Calendar?
Are you talking about Outlook calendars or something else? I mean, generally speaking, individual tasks, they're visible not on the calendar as such, but they're visible on the Outlook task list. There is also a calendar view within Project Online itself, but if what you're referring to is a case of seeing the allocated tasks on your Outlook calendar, that's not possible at this stage.
Okay, thank you, Baz. And another question we have here is, how quickly can Excel be pulled over to this system in order to start using it immediately?
It depends on how complex your requirements are, but for most organizations, so I talked earlier about the fixed price implementation package that we have, and that's really a 15-day work package, the duration of which tends to be anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks.
Cool, thank you, Baz. Another question we have here is, what about the allocated time in Outlook? And I think this references the reporting. It's asked by the same person who asked around reporting in Excel or a PDF.
Yeah, that's fine. So again, there are different ways to set this up, but we can have integration of Exchange so that anytime somebody puts in a out of office in Outlook, that can also reflect on a person's availability for project work within Project Online. But really, that's the kind of scenario that I'd like to discuss in greater detail, just to get a further insight into what it is you're trying to achieve. But certainly there are options available.
Okay, thank you, Baz. That's all the questions we have now. For anyone that has any other questions and hasn't had a chance to send them in, or for anyone that's asked a question and wants further information, I suggest they either contact Baz via his contact details, which are available now, or follow up on the survey information that I'll send out later today.
Absolutely. And again, this will be available on YouTube by Monday, I hope. And in closing from me, it's just another event that we're involved in alongside Microsoft that I just wanted to display on the screen, so I'll leave that there. And I'll hand back to you, Nathaniel.
Okay, Baz, thank you very much. I think that's everything from the APM. So for all the attendees, I hope you found this useful. Please give us your thoughts when we send out the feedback. Baz, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, and I hope everyone has a good day ahead.